The beginning is a little bit soft and they're shuffling papers around, so it's harder to hear the beginning. But then it gets clearer and you'll immediately hear Norman Werner, the head of corporate compliance.
Aaron sent you.
Just one for the conduct PDF.
That's it?
I asked for much more.
No, that's not coming.
Why is that?
Because it's not.
Why is that?
Because you should not have to get disciplinary action.
And that would just want to make sure.
Is that your question?
Proceed if you want to take it further.
The union rep is talking to the
I'm just
judge.
asking you to define what just cause is if it's not that you give different people equally for the same offense.
Okay, we'll go through the hearing and then we can talk
Wait,
through that, but
she
you're
was
not getting the
challenging them?
documents.
Why wasn't there already a better...
reactions within this organization?
Are you saying that people who had HIPAA violations in the past were not disciplined?
No, they were disciplined, but you should not have access to employees' records.
You could redact the name.
Well, they're not here today. They're not present, so I don't have the documents.
So no policies, no guidelines.
Well, they'll be spoken to. We have management
I
here.
asked for them in documents.
Okay, well, you have
Actually,
got,
when we...
whatever you got from Aaron is all you're getting at the moment. Management will present their case, and then you'll respond. And then you have to
So
go...
no docs. You do have a policy?
There's documents management has. So
Do you have guidelines?
Can you please sign in, James, and we'll begin?
Do you have guidelines?
Management will present.
No guidelines, no policy, no documents, and no proof of previous HIPAA violations that were
You
suspended.
can sign it.
All right,
Nothing.
can you please have the grievance signed?
You can sign it. I want her next.
He wouldn't sign the paper.
Please sign the doc. Please sign it.
He told me he's not signing it.
So I just want to be clear. I asked for guidelines.
James, okay.
This is going to be tough, right?
You can make it as tough as you want, but you don't have to be disrespectful.
It's not
Okay,
disrespectful.
it's very disrespectful.
I just came in here and I requested documents that will help this
Well,
case
and you got
resolve this issue.
the documents that you're getting, okay?
So that's not disrespectful.
You got the documents
That's not
you're getting.
disrespectful.
Management will present, you can respond, there'll be a decision within 5 business days, and then you can go wherever
Because
you want.
I would assume.
Okay, you know, we're starting. Okay, you're already late. Okay, we're starting the hearing.
Okay.
So who will present for management? This is a 5-day suspension for HIPAA violation. The grievance is Danna Novak.
My name's Danna.
Okay. Mike, you want to present?
She's the judge.
I think
Yeah, but he's HR.
I think the discipline, as it was issued on October 20th, clearly identifies the reason for this discipline violation. It's a HIPAA violation. It's, in my opinion, straightforward that information was furthered outside of the organization to unauthorized individuals that contain patient identification. It's part of our practice that we address these issues in this type of format, and that was done by Ms. Carol Wilson.
My manager.
That's your case?
Did you want to speak to
Sure. So I'm here, I'm the Director of Corporate Compliance for what formerly known as Continuum Health Partners, but now it's not my health system. So in terms of what Novak did violate was provisions of Code of Conduct, which I'm handing out to everybody here, specifically pages 8 and 9. So if you refer to page 8 and 9, confidentiality, confidential information, we are committed to maintaining, and I'm reading verbatim, and this is actually the document that Ms. Novak received at her time of hire. So introduced this document executed by Ms. Novak back on August 3rd, 2006, acknowledging receipt of said code of conduct, acknowledging that she will abide by said code of conduct. So specifically on page 8 and 9, We carefully avoid any unwarranted invasion or disclosure of patients' privacy. We are committed to complying with all applicable privacy and security laws and regulations, including the applicable aspects of the Federal Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, and to ensure that we protect our rights to patients' rights to privacy, the following guidelines apply. Access to protected health information is limited to those permitted by law and hospital policy. To wit, you are not one of those, Mr. Ferris.
I don't know, I've never seen a hospital policy, which I requested.
The code of conduct, just the policy.
This is in the code of conduct, and it references a hospital policy. So I would assume it's not referencing.
That's our corporate compliance policy entitled Confidentiality of Protected Health Information. This is available on the internet. So, reading, statement of policy, second caption.
Hold on. Let me just go over here. The policies that I'm familiar with, that I have received every single time for 9 years, has boxes here saying the date of implementation, when they were revised, and everything of this.
Right.
So this is not in
that
the
on the internet.
format.
That's on the internet. This is a non-internet copy. If you have access to our intranet,
So then can you tell us the date that this was
I don't have that with me, but I can provide that.
But that's kind of relevant, don't you think?
It is.
Well,
I can go to any
then can
computer
you?
right now.
Well, you said that in the last meeting as well.
Do you?
Can you go to a computer right now and bring it?
I think it's on the internet. We're going to proceed.
I don't have
No.
access
Last
to it.
meeting, he also said he can go to the
Management
computer
is presenting right now.
I'm allowed to speak.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am allowed to speak.
We're going to have that finished.
Okay. Well, I would like to see a date on this because this is just arbitrary.
When the hearing officer allows that, I'll be glad to. So the statement of policy, this is the corporate compliance policy, which is part of that Israel St. Luke's Roosevelt and all other entities that form known as Continuum Health Partners, the hospital committed to protect the privacy and confidentiality of health information about patients. Protected health information is strictly confidential and should never be given nor confirmed to anyone who is not authorized under the hospital's policies or applicable law to receive this information. So, in the instant case, protected health information was provided to you. You are not authorized to receive it. So this is the corporate compliance policy.
But, right, so is this the guidelines you were saying that directs you to suspend someone 5 days?
This is a corporate compliance. I don't believe there's anything in there.
Because I'm reading the violations. It just says it would be a violation of this policy that may result in disciplinary actions up to including termination
That's
of
correct.
employment.
So,
So when we met with the investigation, you said that there was a 5-day suspension and that was a guideline that must be rendered.
no, I can say that.
You absolutely did say.
I said there are guidelines. Guidelines
I
are not
brought up to
mandatory.
you, I brought up to
I'm a
you.
witness to you saying that.
I brought up
So
to
the
you,
other
Mr.
document that I
Werner.
have is disciplinary guidelines. Maybe this is the document that you really desire.
And there's
So,
no
getting
date
back
on this
to yours
either.
and getting back to your point.
Okay, where are you
Back to the
referencing
point.
on this?
So what I'm referencing is procedures guidelines number 2. The form of discipline or sanction will be applied will vary according to the particular instance of each instance of noncompliance. Individuals who commit violations or misconduct that are intentional or reckless in nature may be subject to more severe sanctions. So these are guidelines.
Intentional and reckless? Do you think that
I said
my
intentional
email was
or reckless.
intentional or reckless?
I said intentional or reckless.
Right.
So it's based on severity and it's based on obviously past precedent. So in terms of violations, and we do have a track record in our organization of individuals who have violated circumstances just like the grievance, and discipline of 5 days and or more or termination have been levied on individuals, including nurses.
So hearing officer, he is now referencing other individuals who got similar discipline.
Okay, it was just testified that the minimum suspension, minimum discipline is 5 days.
No, he didn't say that.
If it's
Based on severity, based on past precedent.
And he said
Discipline is
there
meted
are
out as
other
appropriate.
individuals involved who got the same discipline or termination. So again, I will ask you as the hearing officer, and you're supposed to be a neutral. If you have one party referencing facts of a case that they're relying on to give Danna Novak a 5-day suspension, I'd like to see that.
I
What
didn't
he's
reference
relying
any
on.
facts.
You said you are aware of individuals.
I did not say
in
that.
this-
I said, just read from the policy
No, I know you
that
said.
similarly situated individuals
I just went through the box.
receive discipline based on the paragraph that I read.
Are you aware of any similarly related individuals as we are talking
I am
about
aware
this
of,
case?
I'm aware of similarly situated infractions.
Okay.
Where they received an equal disciplinary.
That's correct. Or even more, more severe.
It gets better.
Are you aware of any disciplines that weren't at this level for HIPAA violations?
Am I aware? Can you repeat that?
Yes, there are HIPAA violations that I'm sure occur numerous times in a year, if not even a month. Are you aware of any HIPAA violations where the discipline rendered was not a 5-day suspension or termination, which I'm
Yes.
assuming? What were the facts, as you recall, related to that?
There was one in 2010 that there was a meeting out of 3 days of
Homicide
discipline.
detective.
And do you remember the facts
I remember
that differentiate that from this?
it was looking up the records of somebody who was related to that person, to that employee.
Okay.
And what happened was, since that time, every year, hence, and I have the most recent,
Okay.
global notification memorandum was issued by our CEO and President Stan Bresnoff every year since that time in the calendar fourth quarter. A document very similar to this, raising the bar, if you will, to the entire organization,
Raising the bar.
stating that breaching of HIPAA and patient confidentiality is sacrosanct. It's a sacrosanct. Let me reverse this. It is sacrosanct that we do protect patients' privacy. This puts the entire organization on notice. Since this time, individuals have received most likely more discipline than the 3 days that I just cited.
Okay.
Since this time. No, it's 2010.
So here it says they would be I'm assuming you're reading second paragraph. They would be subject to disciplinary action, including termination or removal from medical staff, and if appropriate, will be reported to law enforcement authorities. Was this case reported?
There was no case with this. This does not cite any specific case.
No. Was this case?
No.
Ms. Novak's case?
No, because the breach was contained. We're assuming that you didn't disseminate it any further.
You never asked me that question.
Well, hopefully you didn't, or else we would have major, significant issues with you.
But you didn't ask me that question.
That's not my role.
Not my role. I'm the head of corporate compliance.
So if someone,
For this instant issue.
right, so if someone did not have, so global communications is via ChipNet. If someone did not have access to ChipNet, how is this dispersed?
The expectation is that whoever the department manager or supervisor or whatever other management role is supposed to inform those staff members without computer access of such a document.
Danna, you see this form, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen it before?
Never in my life.
Who has been your managers in the ED?
Eileen Yost. Matthew Landers and now Miss Wilson, none of them have shown me this document.
Was Miss Wilson?
And I've asked for a
Hold on.
ChipNet account multiple times.
Was Miss Wilson your manager on August 15th of this year?
I think that's around when I don't even know.
Now, there's a mandatory test that each employee takes every year. It's mandatory to take an update. Have you been taking your mandatory compliance test each year?
I don't know which mandatory compliance
There's a
test you're
HIPAA
referring
mandatory
to.
It's part of that, yeah, that is part of
The
the,
annual core competency,
Core
which
competency.
includes
and that's
many
something
different areas.
that's an employee's responsible to complete. That's included in the core competencies.
But wouldn't you have a record that she did or did not? And did she?
Well, that's the question is for...
Hold on. So I asked for documents related to this case. You're now asking me...
It's just, again, I'm not asking for document, it's a question. I'm asking...
But you have the information, don't you? Whether she did or did not do her core competencies in the last year.
Well, and right now, we don't have a document. It's a question. If she does not want to answer, fine, but it was a question that was being asked.
Do you recall? Okay.
So I guess my question is,
Hold on, let me read.
This document pulled out of the file.
You have to keep the Bible, then I'll send the copies. Do you have it?
So you're saying, so since this code of conduct book, which references HIPAA but not in much detail, there's been numerous
insufficient detail. It says,
numerous adjustments to HIPAA since that time. Has there been any in-services, or this takes the place of your in-services to re-educate
we just
employees
stated
about
that every year,
There's a
the annual core competency is required to be completed by the staff member, and in there is EMTALA, and there is HIPAA, and there is corporate compliance.
Okay.
Every year, in addition to any
And
other.
whose job is it to check to make sure employees complete the core
To the best of my
competencies?
knowledge, it's Department of Management.
So if you complete it, just get all that legal
But let's
mumbo
just get back
jumbo
to the
anyway.
code of conduct. Is this the grievance signature?
Yeah.
So, based on the execution of this document, she received this code of conduct.
She may have.
And, no, she didn't may have. She did.
Not that one, but the one in 2006.
That's right, 2006, which is right here. This is the 2006 one. So,
And we're gonna have a copy of
pages
that.
8 and 9 did not change since the revision.
Can we have a copy of the one from 2006?
This is the 2006.
Yeah, can we have a copy of it?
I provided it.
Well, I would like one too. I'm the grievant here. I would like a copy.
He's represented you. You are the grievant. You can take a
Right,
copy.
you can provide me a copy.
I can.
You're saying that I'm supposed to have
I
the
can.
copy, so can you provide me with a
You
copy?
already have it.
I don't have it.
You got it on August 3rd,
Okay,
2006.
but that's
You
like
remember what she
10
said
years
to
ago.
you at the investigation? She does not remember getting it. So you said, got you, I had
I
your
didn't say
signature.
got you. That's
Can-
her signature.
Can you please
She was-
provide me with another copy?
Absolutely.
Okay, today?
Let me write that down.
Oh.
I'll make you a copy of it. I'll make you a copy as soon as we're adjourned, so that
Okay.
you have this. I don't want you to walk
So
away without it.
looking at your 2006 copy, and I'm assuming we're talking 8 and 9, where are you referencing the encryption part? That she was
I'm not
disciplined
referencing
on?
the encryption part. I'm referencing the dissemination of protected health information to a third party, you.
Yes,
You were an illegal recipient under federal law.
but you talked about, and when you were
Yeah.
doing the investigation, we talked about encrypting,
Okay.
right? And this is transmitted an unencrypted email containing the PHI. There were two issues here. One was that she sent it to me, the other that it was unencrypted, right? So I guess sending it to me is pretty clear. We have the email. The unencrypted part I'm not understanding.
She didn't send it encrypted. And it's the policy, the HIPAA security policy of the organization to not send protected health information in an unprotected fashion. And that's what occurred. There's no mandate.
Well,
for
the
encryption.
managers wouldn't give me a ChipNet email address, so how could I possibly comply with
I
that?
don't know.
Well, what do you mean you don't know? Your management No one would give me a ChipNet address,
I'm the director
despite
of
my
corporate
multiple
compliance.
requesting one.
Actually, you introduced
Sorry.
yourself as the HIPAA police.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did.
I introduced myself as the director of corporate compliance.
You called yourself the HIPAA
The
police,
HIPAA police with
proudly
your- with
and
your
smugly.
And that's very germane to this.
That's a good law.
He called himself.
Yeah,
All right.
it's good to ignore them.
Are you guys
I got
finished?
worse. I got a lot worse.
So essentially, just to wrap up on my end, she violated the code of conduct. She violated patient's bill of rights. She violated hospital policies.
Hold on. I want you to go over the discipline, actually. Because what's in here is what she violated. So here she violated HIPAA
Which is federal law.
and encryption. Right?
And it says patient privacy rights.
Which is HIPAA.
Sent PHI to an unauthorized individual in an unprotected, unencrypted, non-encrypted fashion in violation. Correct.
And remember when we talked about before that if issues come up, that these documents are being sent to me over the last 9 years, that you would deal with those issues, right?
So that you would, yes, that we would take a look at it and see
Yeah.
what you do have or what you don't have.
So these two people sitting at the table who has been involved with me for a very long time with grievances, are you two going to verify that at no time that you have given to me patient identifying
Both of them
information
have.
over the last, I've been here 9 years, but over the last years you have seen me. Are you willing to verify that?
Is this issue about me?
It is about the confusion over the policy,
But
where everyone is
let me just say
confused,
this.
where everyone is
If you have
confused.
documents that, since you pointed out to me that I have violated, then send them to the corporate compliance office and let's address me
Ooh,
in that vein on a different day.
I have
On the
documents
pronounce,
with patients' names. I have documents with their social security
Okay,
number.
James, I'm not
I have
saying that you do
documents
not, but send
with their
them-
social
send them
security
to
number, which
corporate
is probably
compliance.
more of a problem than just an email she sent to me.
So send them to corporate compliance and we'll
We have
handle it.
documents that were given to attorneys representing members. We have documents and an investigation.
Okay, are you gonna present this, or is this, I don't know?
Did you request for those documents?
No,
did
I mean,
not
you
get
bring them
that.
up, so
I did
again,
not.
as Wendy said, then you have an avenue to go.
I have no knowledge of what you're speaking to.
Okay.
I have knowledge of this.
So let me understand. So you could reference cases that have similar disciplines to Danna and Novak, and your response to that is, I'm not getting it. But yet I could reference cases where you have given me documents, and I know you know that.
I
you
don't
have
even know
given
what
me
you're talking
documents.
about. If you want to be specific, I mean, I don't get documents.
You want to look in the
They're given-
Osana Trusek file?
Well,
Which is-
I don't present the document. Management presents their case and
Okay.
responds. So if you want to, again, management presents a
Look through
position.
that file. See how many documents.
I have no access to employee or health
If the
records.
files exist, then we'll send them to corporate compliance and whatever rules we have in place for discipline, the individuals
Right.
involved, will take place in the same format.
But my point is
I don't know.
that
I hear
there's
your point.
confusion over whether I am covered or not,
I hear your point.
right?
I hear your
There's a
point.
confusion,
There's no confusion over what?
whether I am a covered entity or
You are
not.
not a covered entity.
That's your
There's no
decision.
confusion.
I am saying that out of these code of conducts, I don't know where you read that.
Under
I
federal
understand.
law, under federal law,
Okay.
under the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act,
federal
you are not
law,
a covered
federal
entity.
law.
His
Would you
favorite
consider
word.
yourself an expert on HIPAA?
I consider myself knowledgeable.
Okay. Would you consider every manager as knowledgeable as you?
Probably not.
So if they don't understand HIPAA on your level, and they have taken, I guess, the yearly
Annual competency.
annual competencies, and your management team doesn't understand that, there's an issue with you getting your knowledge to everyone.
I don't follow.
You don't need to.
Who in management doesn't understand?
He should be a
And
lawyer.
if they don't, we'll address them, myself included.
Okay. So if I get something the other day in an investigation talking about a patient, giving the name of his patient, his family member, that he's on a ventilator, what invasive procedures, and the healthcare proxy, and what the healthcare proxy states, would that be a HIPAA violation?
Possibly. However,
Possibly.
so what you're alleging is that you've received protected health information from St. Luke's Roosevelt staff people
From a manager.
via email from management.
In person.
And on the bottom of the email, with the disclaimer language saying if you think you received this in error and blah, 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 violation of HIPAA, did you report this to anybody? Did you take it for you? Did you take it?
No,
in other words,
because
you
I
claim,
think
you
I'm
are
a covered
claiming,
entity.
So, no,
I understand, we
you're
disagree
not
over
a covered
that.
entity.
We
You're not a
disagree
covered
over
entity. You disagree over what?
I have a
Facts.
legal right to represent members to the best of my ability.
But you're not a covered entity under federal HIPAA law.
I know that. I think I am.
I think we're, so James, you have a copy of something that you may or may not have received. Forward it to...
I did receive.
That you did receive. Forward it so we can address it.
She won't
But
face the
again,
reality, what his point.
Even down to your
They're all
managers,
liars.
there's confusion about what they can or cannot.
I can't speak about other people. About
You should be, because if this is your role, I am telling you, and I told you the other day, that no one understands this as well as you think they do. And we could go back to that 2006 Code of Conduct on, because I've been here since 2006, showing you documents. So something happened that if you're up here in this tower with all this knowledge and it's not getting locally, that she shouldn't be blamed for that.
what you just said was inane.
Huh?
What you just said was inane.
Okay.
Inane.
What's that mean? Dumb?
This is part of my
What is
job.
inane?
So yes,
How do you
I should know the intricacies of HIPAA more so than lay people. Just like a nurse should know more about an upper respiratory infection than I do.
Silly, stupid.
I know what it is. I don't know the treatment. I don't know the etiology. I don't know the pathology. So it's the same issue.
There
And the
are
point is, everybody receives orientation
Yes.
at the new hospital level. There's management orientation. There are other arenas and forums. And the point is, everyone is provided with the code of conduct. Everybody was provided with this card at the time to put on their ID.
I've
They
never
ever had
seen
any
that
questions?
card.
I've never seen that in my life. And I don't know anyone in my emergency
never
room
seen that
that
card
has
in my
that
life,
card
and
on
that-
their ID.
And that is kind of my point, is that you have this idea of how things are being implemented and done, and it's not based in reality. The reality is...
Again, I have to say that I don't even know what direction that statement is coming from. So I have to just dismiss it as inane.
Inane.
Does anyone have that card? Have you seen people
If
in
we
the
go out to the
hospital?
hallway here,
This is
I'll find-
HR. This is your ID.
Let's go to the
now.
emergency room and
We go to
see
the emergency
which nurse
department.
has that card on her ID badge right now. I bet you not one.
When you go back to your department, when you go walk with the emergency department, you will see many, many staff members with this card.
So let me...
Not in the 7 years that I've worked
Hold on,
there.
hold on.
It's given to everyone.
What's the title of that card?
It's a corporate compliance photo ID identification card.
Let me see.
But actually, it's not being disseminated anymore because it's a continuum card. So we actually stopped as of several weeks ago. You can keep that.
James said I don't want it.
It's given to every new employee and new
Okay.
employee orientation. And at the time of Ms. Novak's orientation, when it was a teal color,
This is my hearing.
Okay. Have you seen it?
We got these at the cancer center.
You have it on your ID?
this is what Ms. Novak received at the time.
Can I keep this one? I'll
You keep that.
Did you ever see this?
I received the card when I was hired here. almost 4 years ago. I do not have all the cards because they get torn off, some of them, but I have to say that I do remember Norm's presentation distinct from every other presentation at orientation.
You present at orientation?
Yes, I remembered his presentation because, of the manner in which he spoke to us. And I'm familiar with the HIPAA federal law.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say that this is not information, and this is information that is shared through the organization on an annual basis.
And you said you give this out, orientation?
As of the merger of the two organizations, we don't do it anymore.
Is there a different code of conduct book now that you guys have merged?
We're using the same one until we implement more of a consolidation of the corporate compliance departments of the two organizations. So at this time, we're still utilizing the code of conduct we have.
So your position is that if there's confusion in whether I am covered or not,
There is no confusion.
to you, there is not. That's very clear.
So wait, so
that's
who's
very clear to me.
confused? So what you're saying
Leadership?
is confusion over whether you are a covered entity. And who's confused?
Your management team
No.
down to your staff nurses.
Again, I can't speak to that because
I know you can't speak to that, but I'm saying, in your mind it's clear, and I understand that. You've been very clear with that. I am not a covered entity.
that's correct.
And it's not clear in my mind, but even if I take your argument that I'm not a covered entity, I don't think anyone in this room has that same concept as you. As
I think they know.
5 days ago, I
I think
received
they know.
a letter talking about a patient, his diagnosis, his brother who lives in Los Angeles, what procedures he may or may not have.
With the patient's name on it.
Yes.
Well, we will be
Intubation, bronchoscopy, blood transfusion, okay, given by telephone consent. I had a
That's okay.
termination case on an oncology nurse, documents this big, patient's names related to medication errors.
That should have been taken off. That was told that it should
You
have been
were,
taken
you were
off.
included with that.
I didn't present that information. That should have been taken off. That was a
You were the
directive.
hearing officer, and I assume you have some
redacted.
role. You have some role when documents are being passed across the table.
It
that you have
was
some
told by
wrong.
management that that should have been taken
Okay.
off. I specifically told management that needs to be taken off. So if something was
Is that a
not
lie?
taken off, that was a directive. I clearly gave them, and they can speak to that.
So,
Clearly gave them
when
the
this is done, can you please provide those names of the individuals so that we can address it?
I'm
And I
glad to
had
know
them
more of what
scratch it
you've
off
been
in front of me
through.
if something got out that was completely something I was clearly told them to do.
But you were at that hearing when they gave documents to me.
I was part. There was a lot of documents.
Just like the documents that were handed to me today, right? These were policies that were handed to me today. So you're saying that whatever Mr. Werner handed to me today, you had no authority or knowledge of what these would be?
I'm aware of those, but again,
Oh, I did not
if there's an
speak
issue-
to her about providing these documents at today's meeting.
Okay.
I did this on my own.
And if you were going to hand me documents, say like this, would you speak to her or just hand them to me also?
Well,
Again, management presented documents. They, an impartial person, and they present their documents. They have to prove their case.
It's kind of hard to take it that you're an impartial person when I come in here and you say you're not getting any documents.
Again, you asked
Right,
the request for Aaron. You didn't ask the request for me.
Right.
And Aaron talked to me before he left, and he said he wasn't providing it. So I was not. You addressed that letter to Aaron. I asked him before I left for the hearing. You did not address that letter
Okay.
to me. I said, is there anything I should know? And he mentioned that to me.
So has anyone spoken to OPD, which is the nursing, licensing agency, about whether if a nurse gives information to her union rep that has patient identifying data,
Not to my knowledge.
would that be
Not to my knowledge.
suspending of her nursing license?
Not to my knowledge, James. No, it's
We
very
have
rare.
spoken to them, and they don't know of any
Let me
case
say,
where a
it's very
nurse has
rare
been.
that we report nurses to, the state. We do report when it's issues related to narcotics, substance, any, how do you say, diversion of medications, or if the nurse has, if we assume the nurse has an issue with narcotics, we do report that. There are federal laws and we have to report it. But to say that we report, every infraction is a federal law also. But I don't recall a practice of us reporting these to
Okay.
the state or otherwise.
Well, my background, I don't have any history of that either. Where nurses have been disciplined, whether suspended or terminated, they were not necessarily reported to their board. That
Are
I'm
you
aware of.
asking us to report this?
No, I'm just, I've called them. We've called them. We've
To
talked
see
to
if we
them.
reported it?
No,
They
to
said we
see,
reported
to
it?
see if they are familiar with any cases where they have suspended a nurse's license or revoked her license related to HIPAA and union representation.
And are there cases?
They are not, and they said as far as they were concerned, that they would not even get involved because the union has a right to this information to represent the member. So from her licensing board, maybe they need you to call them and educate them on HIPAA too, because they have a different opinion of what they believe a violation is.
So are you saying
Secondly,
that,
do you know-
the nursing board would not classify this issue as a HIPAA violation?
As an issue that they would need to get involved with.
Right. Correct.
But you're talking about the seriousness. So are you familiar with any legal cases where a nurse or a doctor gave information to their representative, me, and that the federal government got involved and treated it as seriously as you're treating it?
Can you say it one more time?
Similar cases. If this is such a serious issue that it renders a 5-day suspension because she gave me information, PHI, right? Which I get from managers and from labor.
That was again not given by me, so I need to repeat that.
You do
I don't
need to
have
repeat
access to patient information, James.
Okay.
I never do.
But again, let me say this. If I forwarded James PHI, then I have a right to be suspended for 5 days too, just as Danna does. And I would entertain that. I have no problems with
I don't think you have to say that, right?
that. No. No.
I mean, I
I'm saying
understand.
for whose benefit? For whose benefit, James?
For the betterment of
truth
the
matter is-
corporation, right?
No.
You're a manager, you're a leader here, you
I don't
have
say,
to
I
talk
don't
to
have
corporate
to,
like that.
no, I don't have to say anything for the corporation. The corporation hired me to do a job, they pay me a salary, which I accept every 2 weeks. And short of that, and following, their rules, but, you bring up a point that there are details here that, we follow rules and laws in every aspect of our lives, right? But sometimes there are fine details that, sometimes you don't realize you're breaking. So if in fact I or any other management broke one, we should be subject to the same disciplinary actions as what we're holding others accountable for.
Well,
If I'm holding Danna accountable for PHI, protected patient identification, then I have to hold myself accountable for the same. And I would not sit across a table and give her a 5-day suspension, and then I forward you the same information, and when it's presented, don't accept the same.
I understand that,
Suspension.
and you may have some higher qualities than most people. So I respect what you're saying.
And-
I don't
and
think
if the
that that's going to
manager-
be the outcome here.
And if the manager who forwarded you this document, I would expect that we have the same disciplinary action for this manager. So if you provide, I guess, whomever is supposed to get it, if it goes to Norm, and
Then the investigation will happen, and then, same
and
here,
the person will
exactly.
be suspended, and there's no question about it.
But I
That's not
guess the
acceptable
question would
practice.
be, and again, this has to do with the labor tenant of just cause. If people do not understand fully, as Mr. Werner does, what HIPAA is, suspending them 5 days is just a punishment. It's not a correction of the problem.
Right, and we
Right?
ultimately want a
Well,
correction of the problem.
every instance, or any instance of HIPAA infractions have been followed up with education.
I don't know that.
We've had
That's
instances
what-
where
that's what I'm
people, the person that looked at their family member's file
Mhm.
didn't think it was, an infraction to look at their family member's file. The person that looked at their own file, I worked in an institution where part of HIPAA, if I went in on my own medical record that's in the system, as an employee, and started looking at it, that was against the rules.
It is against our policy.
Right, so
Why?
I know, initially when the first time I heard of that occurs,
Private health
the person doing it said,
information.
well, this is my own file. What do you mean I can't look at my
Mm-hmm.
own file? So not realizing the detail of the law, but what is that statement that says because you don't, ignorance of the law
Ignorance is bliss.
is not an
There's no
excuse,
excuse.
right? So, you learn it. You learn these things as you go by, because who would have thought to look at your own
These are
record,
my managers.
is against the law?
Right, but again, the
When it
argument,
happens, you don't.
the argument in just cause is that all instances are treated the same. And I am aware of issues when I started here where people got a written warning for what is considered a HIPAA.
Years ago. Several years ago.
So somewhere along the line, we've decided to make that a written warning, and my understanding is that person who got that written warning in 06, 05, 04, maybe even before that, has never had a violation of HIPAA since. So that written warning corrected the problem. And that's the tenet of just cause.
But
That
since
the least
date,
amount of discipline to correct the problem.
But since that date, we've had infractions of HIPAA violations from, you name it.
You've had
different
some serious
We've
infractions.
had some serious infractions.
Right, that's right.
So the law and the commitment to upholding the law had to get a little bit tighter, where Stan Brezhnev is sending out and emails, and messages, memorandums, and it's coming from all aspects of the organization, because it's not sinking in, whether we have someone of high profile or, we have something that just piques some curiosity. It's not sinking in, and it is a federal law, and it's not something that we created, but we have to bring to everyone's attention, because the liabilities are on the organization, as
So-
well as it could be on the individual.
So again, I will say that in a just cause scenario, it is considered the least amount of discipline to correct the problem. In some instances, it's just saying, hey, don't do that ever again, or there's going to be an issue, and that corrects the problem.
But there has to be,
We've had
an
people-
equitable discharge of the rules, because it wasn't that long ago that, there were other employees disciplined in the same fashion.
Well, we had an issue with Alicia Keys, which I mentioned.
Okay, so,
Right.
so you.
And Alicia Keys came in here under assumed name, and her bird had an assumed name. And by the end of that day, it was released to the media, someone on the floor, that she was here at Roosevelt, gave birth to a boy, the weight of the boy, the date that she gave birth, and so on. That to me seems much more serious than what we're talking about here. And I don't know what the discipline was there. As I said to you, I am not aware of any nurses who were disciplined at the time. And if they were disciplined, I was never put on notice, which I'm required to be under the contract. So I'm going to assume there were no nurses disciplined. I don't know what the others, but that is a much more serious offense
And it was handled.
than someone who is having concerns about her employment here and some issues, and has sent a letter to her manager and CCs me on it that happens to have patients' names.
And
I over here, it talks about, hold on, it talks about reporting concerns, non-retaliation. So again, I will say this, and I know I said it to you before, and neither you were there. When she reports a concern by an email, and the hospital's only response to that is to discipline her for 5 days, that appears to be retaliation. That when I asked Miss Wilson, and you were there, and I asked Miss Wilson, what did you do to investigate? She said, I sent Donna an email saying, I have taken care of it. When I asked her for specifics, who she spoke to,
Right, I was there.
there was zero.
Again,
I know you can't
I
speak
have
on
nothing
that.
to do with the quality issues. This instant issue came to my attention. There's no retaliation. I'm the HIPAA guy. I'm not a lawyer.
So you
HIPAA
introduced
police.
us.
I'm
So
not, I'm not a lawyer.
Dana,
Right.
I looked at the email that you sent copying Ms. Wilson and James with regards to reporting on the patient going up to St. Luke's and other things. And at first I was kind of like concerned, like I didn't understand why you were sending that email. Is it someone at St. Luke's did not want to take report on that patient?
No one would take report.
Right.
Not someone.
And
No
that's
one.
a patient that required immediate attention.
It was a
or being
critical care
transferred.
patient.
Exactly. All I would have expected from that is that a manager is notified, a manager contacts
A
another
manager was notified.
at the receiving end,
That did
And-
happen.
and someone go and make sure that report was taken on that patient and address the person who refused to take the report. I don't know what caused them to refuse to take the report. Was it that they were...
They said that
They were overburdened,
they said
they
they had no beds and that they didn't know about the patient,
Right.
that they had not been informed.
But then, at least, the manager should tell them what the plan is.
I agree.
You have no beds, but we're taking this patient, taking them to PCI, and we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and hold them there, and maybe in recovery, and then give them a bed.
I agree.
So, I was concerned. I don't understand this email. Why didn't we?
Because she went through,
But you went through
What
management.
don't you
and no-
understand?
she
Well,
went
that's what
through
I'm trying to figure
management,
out.
right.
What- You went through
But the
management
email
and no one...
explains itself very
Right.
clearly.
Well,
I'm
sorry.
concerned for
I'm
the
sorry.
welfare
I'm
of the
not-
patient.
Okay, so when you
who-
told this to the manager, did they not take action?
No, not to,
Okay,
to
that's
my
what I was-
knowledge.
That's what I was not clear about.
Yeah.
So,
No, and it's written in the email that the attending even called the nurses.
I read all that.
The attending called the cardiologist. There was a whole hoo-ha. The cardiologist said that he didn't know what was happening.
I got that part. I didn't
Okay.
get the part that no manager.
that it went up the
Right,
ladder.
it went up
This was
for
on a
nursing.
weekend,
I
right?
saw the physician.
I don't remember what
I
day
saw
it
the
was.
physician involvement, and I was not aware
Oh,
that
Thursday.
no nurse manager actually took.
I told the
took
charge
control.
nurse that was on
No, I
that
saw you
shift,
told
and I wrote an
Christina.
incident report, Christina Decane, and I
Right,
wrote an
you see what
incident.
I'm looking for? I'm looking to find out
She keeps interrupting you. She doesn't let you talk. Yeah.
Miss Wilson, at that time, called the supervisor at St. Luke's.
Miss Wilson, to my knowledge, has done nothing, and if she's done anything, she hasn't made it known to me.
I can't draw that conclusion, to your knowledge,
Oh.
right? But she didn't communicate to you whether
No.
or not. And that's the piece I was looking for.
And we-
What was the issue that she felt the need to kind of tell you, hey, I'm trying here and no one's hearing me?
All right, so I think it's clearer now.
Mm-hmm.
But again, as far as I know, no one has talked to the nurses at St. Luke's about the reason why they didn't.
I'm going to be looking for the discipline associated with that. Why did you not take report? What were the issues around, and who did you communicate?
Well, it's not a
Because
discipline.
to say-
The question is, and this was the question when Donna got her 5-day suspension, and if you remember, the got you, that was my quote, that we have an issue that was given to the manager, and the response, which is retaliation, is a 5-day suspension. And yet when we asked about these serious allegations here,
You got
Nothing.
I know they didn't talk to those nurses,
all right. So
right?
that comes.
So do I.
So that comes to me, right, as the director, And that's something I will need to address, because if someone says to you, I'm trying to transfer this patient, I'm not getting any support here in taking a report, what did you in fact do about it? Did you call St. Luke's? Did you speak to a manager? Did you speak to a supervisor and say, get someone to take this report so that we can do what's best for the patient? That's the ultimate goal. And
Right.
if in fact Ms. Wilson did not act on your notice, then I have a problem with that. I have a serious problem with that, and she needs to be addressed. And that will happen. You know, James, you and I have had interactions in the past. The expectations for employees are for all employees, myself included. If we're supposed to act in a certain fashion, that's what needs to happen. And I don't want you, Dana, to feel that, you know, you're out there alone on a branch, and for some reason people, you know, based on history or whatever, people just are not supporting you. If you're not getting
Well,
what you
this
need,
is not supportive. Being suspended for 5 days is not supportive. And furthermore, if you read my email and you say you've read it, I'm concerned for the welfare of this patient. There is no intention or recklessness in my email. There is a genuine concern for the well-being of a patient. And instead of saying, thank you, Danna, for bringing this to our attention, you're in fact saying, no, you're suspended for 5 days because you CC James Ferris. That's completely retaliatory.
I hear your position, and
That's my position.
my position, James, is that
Well, it hasn't been done.
pardon?
It hasn't been done, so whether you want to do it now, we would appreciate a resolution of this issue. But I think the bigger piece is that it's been over 2 months since that email was sent out, and the manager who it was sent to has only responded with an email that Donna said, I took care of it.
It
Right?
says
Is that what it
something
said?
along the lines of,
As I've
I have
stated.
investigated this
Right.
and spoken to people, but it
And as I've
doesn't
stated,
say more
I
than
will
that.
address Ms. Wilson with that. I want to know exactly what she did on this day and time when this was given to her. And did she contact the receiving area, clinical area, to get the report accepted on that end? That will be addressed.
Okay.
Again, I say to you that this law, this federal law that we have to abide by is in fact that. And if we break it, then whatever we see as a discipline for it has to take place. I can't now say there's a HIPAA violation and I am not going to address it.
I'm not
Okay.
saying no to it.
So we have
I'm
to
just
decide-
saying there's a better way to address
We
it.
have to decide how we're going to address it here, but then I have to address it.
Can I say one
Whether
more thing?
it's me or anyone else.
In my last grievance hearing, when I was terminated by this hospital, I was accused of abandoning, 7 patients, and
I know nothing
patient,
about
oh, well, I'm
the
just letting you know.
details.
I'm letting you know.
Uh-huh.
Patient charts were brought into the grievance hearing and passed all around the table. James Ferris, Christine LaPerche, there were Mercedes Herman, there were union reps sitting all around me, and patient charts were all passed around the table. And you could flip through them and read through them all, and all the union reps were sitting there around me at that grievance hearing.
And that's not unique.
And that was 7 charts in full, with names, addresses, phone numbers, everything in the history, x-rays, blood results, urine results,
That's not
physical
unique.
exam.
That's not unique.
And that was that was not an issue.
Any of our meetings.
No, not patients
Okay.
shown.
Okay.
But the information
I see.
disseminated.
No. I can clearly see your position.
So James is a covered entity, as are all union
As you
reps,
understood.
because
As you understood
they are
it to be.
representing us.
As you understood it.
Well, no, as per
Well,
the
no, now
as
we're
per the
hearing.
Office of Professional Conduct,
Now-
who I've
Now
spoken
we're
to.
hearing, though. Now we're hearing, right? That-
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's the line that we have to clarify. But now
Well,
we're
I've
hearing.
clarified it with OPD.
Well, OPD
Right.
cannot speak for the
Well,
organization.
they are the board.
For them to get
But here's
involved.
who needs to clarify.
For them to get involved, they're saying. But this is established within the organization.
There are 2 legal entities that probably need to, if they would want to get involved. One is the Department of Labor, which does the HIPAA, right?
No.
Who does the HIPAA?
OCR, HHS.
HHS. Okay, so HHS and an LRB, which does the labor stuff. And which trumps which, right? Because the union has argued in the past cases that they could get identifying information of their members, right? And for a health benefit fund, the union has won a court cases related to getting identifying information of members, diagnosis, usage of the benefits, and so on. I am not familiar at this moment with any case like this, where a union rep who has an obligation to defend their member under the law to the best of their ability does not have access to documents that may help the individual. The point here, though, again, is the least just cause, is the least level of discipline needed to correct the problem. Just cause is an absolute, did the information that you are disciplining her for is fully understood when she violated the code of conduct, fully understood that she was absolutely violating a policy that would lead to discipline. And there is no way that you could argue that. There is no way you could argue that from when she signed a document in 2006. There is no way you could argue that when she was terminated in 2010, and these documents were passed at both the grievance, the investigation, and the arbitration with patients' names, that she would have, that would crystallize that what she did was absolutely wrong and related to a 5-day suspension.
And it was management that brought those patient charts to the grievance hearing and gleefully handed them out and had everyone sit around and read them. It was management that did that. I didn't bring them.
So
it was not an issue then.
Under the
Was
tenets
anyone
of just
suspended?
cause, I don't think that you reached your burden here.
I think that we...
You do, because you have a very clear black and white mind with this.
I'm a little bit, you're right. I'm a little bit more black and white. But what happened
He's walking out?
over the years, the law has been in place for 10 and a half years at this point. The bar has been raised over time. So I bring this, and again, I didn't share this with anybody. It's something recent. Kim Kardashian had a baby at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and the law has been in place for, again, for 10 years at this point. And what did they do?
He's telling all of
They
us that Kim
terminated. The
Kardashian.
law has been...
Listen, I would agree with you. I would agree with you on Alicia Keys. I would agree with you that releasing information to the media is
That's
understood by
egregious.
everyone.
That's egregious.
Right.
And what
Understood by
happens is
everyone.
that's instant termination.
Right.
What has happened over time, again, because since the inception of the law, there have been over 60,000 allegations, triple for the real number, that patients' PHI have been compromised by staff members, others, whoever. But so over that time, even for what Novak has done, the bar was raised. Written warnings have moved up. There are no more written warnings. That the baseline at this organization, for the most part, has been established at that 1 week suspension level. But again, coming back to your point, if let's just say Ms. Novak emailed it not only to you, but then knowingly and consciously to New York Times, Wall Street Journal, then we probably would have gone right to termination.
I'm not saying you wouldn't.
So in other words,
And there would be
this
a much
is
different argument.
It would have been a different argument. But look, I'm just here to give my testimony.
I
But what
understand
I want to share with you, I only brought one copy, and I brought it for you, Ms. Novak. This is a good thing, okay? From National Nurse, 2 years ago, I provide this at training now.
Okay.
Part 1, Part 2. Part 1, Part 2. Yeah, Part 1, Part 2. Everything you want to know about HIPAA, but we're afraid to ask. So I just thought I would share
What does it
with
say,
you.
Part 2? It looks like the same.
No, it looks the same.
September.
It looks the same.
Gotcha.
But there's a Part 1 and Part 2, very, very educational, and I just thought I would share that with you.
Very
Because,
educational.
And you give this out recently.
I just started it. It will be as part of my PowerPoint presentations that I will issue, especially to nurses. I'm not sure if non-nurses, clerical people, this may be too complex for them. I try to present in a simple
Be too complex for you?
fashion. But thought this is two very good documents I thought I'd share.
That's the way
But
it is in
again,
my
coming
head.
back, the norm, the industry norm, up, where even what she did, and that's why we're going to the 5-day suspension.
Well,
And I do have to tell
I
you,
think I want to backtrack on one of the things you said, because you said a 5-day suspension, but previously you said a week suspension.
yes.
5 days for her is 2 weeks.
Okay,
Right?
and I understand that.
And we said that at the
So let me
discipline.
give you, I'm just opining on this,
Okay.
because our policy, the policy that you have, the D1 discipline policy, corporate compliance recommends. We don't impose discipline, but the way, to clarify, the base is 1 week.
Okay.
So you're right, you are correct, that if she has a flexible schedule, in terms of 3 days, 37 and a half hours, then it should be just the 37 and a half hours.
And that's, remember we talked about that at the investigation.
Yeah, and I wanted
That's
to
how
come back
it's
to you,
done in
and I
the
wanted to come
past.
back to you, that it's 5 days really is reference to
1 week.
everybody who works a 75-hour biweekly paid hours, and who are people like me. I work Monday through Friday.
Right, so 5 days would be 37 and a half
For
hours.
me, it would be 5
for you.
days. For her, it should be 3 days.
Okay.
So, and again, I'm not the final authority on that.
Listen, I'm willing to discuss that aspect of it.
Well, I'm not willing to discuss it
You're
as
willing to
a,
discuss your
as a
suspension
Saturday.
time.
No, I didn't.
Right.
Listen, I did not say what you were willing to do. I just
Okay.
said what I was willing to
Okay,
do.
thank you. Because, just so the record will show, because if you were an 8-hour-a-day person, you would be suspended for 37 and a half hours or 40 hours, let's say 8 hours a day, 40 hours. And Donna was suspended for the same offense for 60 hours.
Noted.
And that's after not receiving my salary by the hospital the week before. But there's no retaliation going on here, clearly.
Okay, so I think
I can make you one copy. So that's the 2006 version.
okay,
They have both versions.
we'll make a copy of it.
You can keep that.
Ooh.
We'll figure out what we have to.
Oh, no.
Somebody drew it, somebody drew it.
We're not allowed to discuss my overdraft.
What's going on here? The papers?
Yeah, and I'm asking him.
Not
Yeah, we don't, not today.
But we're gonna,
I was asking him
we have
to
another
bring
issue.
up my overdraft
I know,
thing,
but that doesn't involve.
but he said not today.
Well, that doesn't involve Wendy.
No.
No?
No, I don't know where it's from here. All right, Donna, let's see what we have here. Let me just pick this up. Is that right? All right, so that's yours.
This is,
This is okay, yeah.
my,
The HIPAA we want, I want a copy of that because
I saw that on the internet last week, by the
you
way.
did.
Mhm.
But now that he's saying he just recently did
Oh
that.
no, it was on the internet. I googled it. Totally.
Received 11, 12, 13.
What was it on the internet totally?
The HIPAA policies or something for the hospital. But he was saying that he's just bringing us this as new.
Oh.
There's a continuation, but I don't know if you've had enough.
Well, what was the ruling?
I lost. I went and had an arbitration just a few weeks ago.
Hold on.
Of course I lost. It's all rigged.
So she said 5 days was okay.
And I just had my arbitration for this case, waiting for the result.
So the next one is the FEMLA.
Okay.
Now, there's nobody from management because this is really
have the FMLA forms?
And this is
Okay.
FMLA.
There's
These are all
two
the
issues with
grievances.
FMLA.
And one grievance form.
Did she make her ruling on the recording?
Okay.
On what?
Is this on this recording? Did she make her ruling? I go with the
No,
5
they
days.
sent it in the mail. I have it.
Yeah. All right, I heard enough. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the hours that will take.
I'll tell you about it. Let's put that. Okay.
Oh,
Everything you ever wanted to know about HIPAA, but were too afraid to ask.
That was when it started.
he was so proud of that.
Yeah, no,
I brought this for you, Dana,
Yeah.
just specially for you. It's everything you ever wanted to know about HIPAA, but were too afraid to ask.
There's a part there where you're like compartmentalized. I'm like, yeah.
Like, why
Every
would I be
time.
afraid to ask anything?
Every time James would use logic, he was like asinine,
That's inane.
inane. Every time, like he couldn't fathom, couldn't
So-
fathom logic.
So James,
This is the people that run Mount Sinai Roosevelt Hospital in this city. These are the top of the rank. I mean, this is the caliber of the people that are in charge, and none of them can agree on a thing. This is mind blowing.
so when the union guy was
James.
James, so when James would say, but all these people have given me all kinds
Yeah.
of information.
And
well,
I've
bring it,
seen
bring,
them
and
with
she
my own-
keeps saying, well, bring it to management, bring it to...
Yeah, and he said he would, but they hadn't provided us with any documents. They kept saying that they would bring us examples of other nurses that had been suspended for similar
Right.
HIPAA violations. Then when we arrived at the meeting, they said that they'd been instructed by Aaron Kranich, the head of HR, not to bring them. That's right at the beginning of the recording, but everyone's shuffling around, so it's not so easy to hear. And James Ferris said, well, I want the documents, I want the findings, I want the policy, I want the... And she says, we're not providing it to you today. And he kept asking for it, and she said, it's not happening. So then he said, well, what if I told you I have all these documents? And she said, show them to us. And he said, no, I'm not providing them to you. He said, why can you tell us about documents that you claim you have, but you're not providing them to me? He said, I can play the same game. I'll tell you we have documents and we're not providing them to you. In the arbitration, which was just a few weeks ago, Norman Werner was there, of course. And they asked him on the witness stand, James Ferris and the union lawyer, he was on the witness stand being cross-examined. They asked him, have you reported this case of HIPAA violation to the patient? Because under the law, within 14 days, he must notify the patient. He said no.
You broke the law.
But no, but then James Ferris asked him, well, why haven't you informed the patient? Are you not aware of the law, the Department of Health law, HHS, Health and Human Services? There is a distinct law that says that if the hospital must report it within 14 days to the patient. He said, I am aware of that law. However, this incident didn't rise to such an occasion that we felt it would be required.
As if what you did...
As to say we don't want to get sued.
Oh,
You tell the patient that his HIPAA rights were violated, he's going to sue the hospital, and they know it. It's like, that's the only reason they didn't report it to the patient, yet it was rose to the occasion to suspend me. And this happened after I wasn't paid twice, and this happened after I was threatened for intentional work stoppage. And this happened, it was like a chain of attacks. Then there was the FMLA that was denied. Then there was the second FMLA that was given to me but expired. Then there was the green card thing. It was like a never-ending, barricade of attacks. Bombardment of attacks by human resources. And then at the end of these meetings, I would have to go back to the ER and keep myself composed. you know, while I've just been suspended for, like, they would just like screw me. And then no one in the R knew these things were going on. That's the other thing. That's how they got nurses to testify against me, because none of them even knew that half this stuff was happening. I didn't walk around telling them, oh, I wasn't paid my salary, or oh, I got suspended. I didn't tell them. I couldn't tell them because none of them were my friends, and I didn't trust anyone because I was told not to trust anyone. So like, they didn't know that all this stuff was going on. And then in the arbitration, they bring my freaking coworkers in to testify against me, and they don't even know what's happening. And that's how they won the war. But it's not over yet.
So far, yeah.
But it's not over yet. God has a greater plan, I'm sure. Or in your case, the universe.
And me.
The powers that be.
I have a better plan.
I like whatever plan you plan, I'm with you.
We'll get some good lawyers and make them cry.
Yeah, well specifically, I have two options, or two, not even options, two paths to take. I can get a labor lawyer and sue for constructive discharge and intentional emotional distress and retaliation against the whistleblower and start a whole new case against them. Or I can get a legal malpractice lawyer and sue David.
Oh, do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the whole legal system is like, I don't know. How much can anyone bear? It's already 4 years now.
You're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
And,
doing great
I was
here.
good to hear you speak up in those different times you came through. You didn't take it.
I always do. I'm not going to let those idiots. Well, I shouldn't say I always do. In the beginning, I actually did get bullied around, and then I was like, what have I got to lose? They hate my guts. They've already fired me. They've already, like, at this point, it's like, I have nothing to lose. And when she said, you can't speak, I said, I'm allowed to speak. She's like, no, you can't speak. I'm allowed to speak. I told her back 10 times, I'll speak when I want to speak. Like, who the hell are you?
Yeah, they think this is a theatrical game.
I don't know what, and she, you know, she eventually caved in on that. She didn't keep telling me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'll speak when I want to goddamn speak. Like, I'm not. I did the same. Before that was the grievance hearing. But before you go to a grievance hearing, you have a meeting where they tell you you're going to be suspended. The grievance hearing is to fight it. So the meeting before that, where I was told I'm going to be suspended, Norman Werner was there. That's when he said he was the HIPAA police, and he was yelling at me. I mean, he was like screaming that I broke federal law. He was like leaning over the table. He was pointing his finger. He kept repeatedly screaming that I broke federal law. I asked him this question, literally. I said, imagine that patient was you, and you were that heart attack patient. None of the nurses wanted to receive you, to take report on you, nothing. And I said, wouldn't you want your nurse to let management know that all this was happening? He said, we're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss this. Like, he didn't even want to. I said, I know, but hypothetically, and I said, hypothetically, if that was you, would you hope that one nurse would speak up in your defense? And he refused to answer the question, and he kept pointing back to the code of conduct. The code of conduct says this. The code of conduct says that. And I said to him, do you have any independent thoughts outside of the code of conduct? That's what I said to him. He was so angry when I said that. I said, can you think outside of the code of conduct? Is this the only box? And I was vicious to him. I was vicious. I wish I had it on tape. I didn't really know what I was going into a meeting for. That's why I didn't record it. I should have. But whatever. It's all. I would love to put that on YouTube. Put it on YouTube and let the whole world see how Roosevelt Hospital treats their nurses.